The other day I fell from a really tall new climbing tree I had discovered. I love to climb trees, but it hurt me a lot. Family I had never seen before came to tell me they loved me. I had family in 2 countries now, and the little ones gave me a gift. Look who's here.
You made it.
You're home.
Welcome. Remember me?
Remember me? Blessings.
Long time no see. Remember us?
You made it. Good morning. When its roots could have feasted on my own corpse, they set fire to the tree I fell from. A burial book. Contents: recipes, sea mirror, and the first course. Game plan: weeds up against the beasts. Illuminated story skeleton, a familial tale. Design, earthing, untitled visual poem. Sea mirage. In a very big saucepan, pour 5½ cups water. Salt will make water boil at an even higher temperature. Add 5½ tablespoons and 1 teaspoon sea salt to the pot. The first course. Baking apples the slow way over low temperatures leaves enzymes in the apple alive, and they tend to destroy the shape of the fruit. Crisp, dead apple bites in a butter boat. Cut a raw eggplant in half to serve as a boat. They are not poisonous as was once thought. Scoop a hole in the center for the crisp, dead apple bites. This gives the sweet apples a subtly realistic bitter taste. No one wants to die, not before the end of the day, and never after. Put a pot of river water onto an element to boil. Salt is poison. Clean skin and core an apple. It isn't dead. Cut into 1/2-inch cubes. When water is boiling rapidly, add them. Remove water from heat. After half a minute, those enzymes should all be dead. The apples should be dead, and yet as crisp as they were when they were alive. Ladle them out with a slotted spoon. Into the boat they go. Eating crisp dead apple bites in a bitter boat is not unkind compared to boiling shellfish alive to hear them scream. Do you really have to hear them screaming? Do only animals feel? What is the difference between a painful death and an easy one? There are no easy answers, are there? The unavoidable game ending in death. Let's see. Whichever you are, without even meaning to, the other will always find a way to take years from your life, decimate your numbers, and ruin your day. Oh, that doesn't sound nice. It looks like a fun game. I'd have to sit down and read about it for a while, though. Here's the setup, and here are the instructions. This is what was on the cards. Good luck cards, and these are the dice. This is the color wheel. This must be the story. The story, a familial tale. Being a baby, beneath the oldest oak, in winter's late unfolding into spring, my mother gave birth with no one to help her, to me. I was the only one, the others had died. I was smaller than I should have been, and she worried I might not live through the thaw. I spent the first months hiding underneath her fur while she kept me alive with the fire in her belly. Through the heart I always felt within her mouth, she told me the tales. One tale was about the tree, whose roots tangled above my dream-filled head, and how she helped her own mother burrow into the earth underneath those roots in her first autumn. My mother had had a mother of her own, and her mother told her stories too. However, my grandmother had been old and would often sleep when she would otherwise have been awake. She would be out hunting and would suddenly be so tired she would lay down where she was and simply sleep. She was telling me about grandmother while trying to feed me a dead moth. Electricity still coursed through the furry wing. The insect tasted bitter. Thinking about its suffering made it hard to take into my mouth. I cut off its pain by biting it in two. It doesn't think or feel now. I squinted as she licked it back into the space behind my teeth. I was hungry, or I would have crawled back under the roots of the tree. My mother, after killing more prey, stalking and pouncing before me, eating the dead and feeding a little to me, returned to her tale. The humble human home. Our family had always been poor, unlike the hunters with their summer cabin a mile to the west, empty like the rest of an opened pomegranate. Grandfather and his younger brother built the house I was born into, one room at a time. He met my grandmother on a Sunday at church and fell in love. She was housebound for the most, because she had been born eyeless. Then my grandfather paid her father in a year's hard farm labor, started work on the house, on his own small parcel, a half-acre of land, a betrothal gift from the parish priest, and married her. He did not want to leave her at home alone, so he didn't do work that he couldn't do from close to the cabin. There were trees all around them, and he killed them one at a time and made things from the bones. Sometimes that brought them some money, but my grandfather missed the living wood. It hurt his spine to hear the woods cry out. My father was born. His aunts came to clean and help care for the new little bundle. Years came and went, and he grew into a handsome man. He carved the words into an oak tree, Theo and Dot, and married my mother, the carefree hunter girl, who changed her name to Grover, our name, even though no one actually owns the trees. I have brothers and sisters, but I never got to know them. 2 of them died before I was born, so that everyone was mourning for them before I got here. Some of them were never born, and they make my mother cry sometimes. For a while, I didn't know why. I was too afraid to ask. So my grandmother took me aside and filled me in. Then one winter, my mother quit eating and speaking, as she had an awful cough that wouldn't leave her, and leave her throat alone. She died, along with a little son. No one had known because she was so gaunt. That winter, Grandmother told me tales about the cats that live in the forest outside, until before long, in the forest alone, I would look for their bones, their caves underneath trees, and the other things that grew there, various fungi and black-winged corvids who lived upon the dead. My mother's mother. Maybe they would never have left this place, but strangers traveling through the woods had told of an abandoned cabin, filled with an overflow of supplies, and my mother followed her mother, who was skin and bones, and feeling her age, at least feeling how hard life had sometimes been, and didn't want to fight to survive. They trampled up and down the hill for many days. Groundwater dampened the hunting party's hands and feet, and the undergrowth caught at their legs, making the going slow and the journey harder than it could have been. My mother's mother caught an evil bug. She wasn't sick for very long, but the sickness had made her old body less strong. Before my eyes were open, she had quit waking up after falling asleep, a little at a time, until she quit for good. But first, they found the cabin. By the time they were huddled in the soft woolen blankets in a corner of the cabin, my grandmother had caught the bug she would never completely kill. It came and went, further compromising her body's health, rendering her dependent on Mummy. Mummy began hunting for two, for the first time, alone. The year turned, and the light started to change. The others were suddenly fighting amongst themselves. The women were mad. The boys were at one another's throats. Someone could have been killed. One night, Grandmother couldn't stand the noise. She crawled out into the snow and froze. My mother said the cold filled her soul, not just the hollows inside her bones, when she found her own mother sleeping in icicles between drifts of snow. She stood there mourning, just knowing her mother's body would not be waking again. My mother was saddened all through. My father crossed the cabin to try to console her. Underneath the oak, I wondered when I would see my father, when Mother would take me to see the cabin where Grandmother sleeps in the snow. The ants came then. They cleaned her bones of fur. When I opened my eyes, my mother took me to see her bones. They made her feel a little sad to me. I was disgusted by the smell of the bones, but they were clean. I wanted to know if her bones felt they were sleeping without any fur on them. My mother said she didn't know, but she knew they were disappearing too, a little at a time, more slowly than a seed's unfurling and sending down its root. Before dawn depths and rainfall twined one's skein, their young-bred chaos father's sleep would bring. Offspring rose up to vanquish sacral green, whose venom still unfolding maked them sting. Sown new of loss must the old songs. She'll still push us back into the soaked earth. Sorrowed we die in the wake of our birth. Cities fallen to dust, some dreams unseen. Sleep lead us on to that sweet easy Perth, where her breath still sets shore New's undead queen.
Somnambule, I am human, I will die.
Sleep whiskering into the eye overthrows my laughter and morbidity. Strawberry winnow needling steam out of the eye against every institutional mechanism. Hath thou my will, breath, stop, suppleness, end, underneath a mulch of dread, live, whom created, live. Do I even after pine again, pyre?